Hi there. So if you've clicked on this video, you want to know what kind of equipment I got to get the cheapest downward shot without without compromising quality. And how did I do this? And why would I replace my Sony ZVE-10 as my downward shot? Because it is a very capable downward shot camera, and a lot of YouTubers use it. So why would I do this? Well, I'm going to explain that if you just stay tuned, because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So, what did I do to get this downward shot camera at a fraction of the cost? And what do I plan on doing with my Sony ZVE-10? Well, the Sony ZVE-10 is a very capable downward shot camera, and I've been using it for some of my videos, and it shoots in 4K. I use the kit lens for the downward shot. It's a good camera, and I got nothing against it. The problem I have is that I'd much rather utilize it for a different angle. And it has interchangeable lenses, and I found a camera that might even do the downward shot better than the Sony ZVE-10, and for a fraction of the cost. Now, how would it improve it in a better way? Well, we're going to explore that too. So, I did try to reutilize my Canon T3, if I was to turn that on, I could show you the issue that I have with it. So I'm going to turn it on right now, and here we go. So I'm gonna switch over to that, and okay, so here's the Canon T3. Okay, so I'm on the Canon T3 right now, and if I move around and I look at it, you're gonna see that little irritating little box that I've got in the Canon. So when you're focusing, when you got your Canon T3 in this position, and you'll see, well, now it doesn't want to do it, but it did have that little box, and you've probably seen that in some of the, yeah, there we go. So that little focusing box, I do have that on other cameras. Now I'm just pinned back to the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which, by the way, is a very good studio camera because it's got the face tracking, and I can move around and it finds me, and oh, it's just wonderful. So, what have I done to fix this issue? I tried to repurpose a camera, and that's what I'm all about, is the budget. And the frugalness in me doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money on a whole bunch of extra cameras like some of the other YouTubers do, where they've got like 30 or 40 or $50,000 worth of equipment. So what can we do about that? Well, this is my solution. So this particular camera here is the laser detection autofocus camera by Mokose, M-O-K-O-S-E. And I found this camera on YouTube by a YouTuber that was trying to do things on a budget, just like me. He's just like me that way. And he's got a small little channel, and he's trying to, grow his channel just like the rest of us, much smaller YouTubers. And I seen this camera, and it has autofocus. It looks like a perfect downward shot camera. I'm going to go over to the computer now. So let's switch over to the computer. This is what the camera looks like on the computer. And yeah, here's okay, so it's got a remote control. And the nice thing is the remote control has presets, and that's something that the Sony doesn't have. If you've noticed, when I have to zoom in and out with the Sony, it's always a bit of an issue. Let me just fix my DJI here a second. There we go. So the Sony doesn't have presets on the zoom. So I can preset the zoom angles, and it could actually make my workflow and your workflow a lot better. So what does this little unit cost? Look at the price. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just scroll it up there. $228. Sorry, you couldn't see him because I had the picture on, but $228. But is it any good for that? You know, let me just scroll back down. Oh, there we go. So it's got USB and HDMI. It's got dual outputs. You can use it as a webcam too. It's got 3 prefabricated locations. In other words, you can do 3 different spots you can lock in on, and you can program them on the remote. And there's the back of it. It comes with a power supply, but it does not come with an HDMI cable. So I made sure that I bought one of those. It's got infrared remote. And just remember that when you're using infrared remotes, they could interfere with other equipment. So if they're on the same, type of frequency. It's got 1/4-inch mounting threads. It's got M4 mounting threads, whatever those are. And it has 10 power optical zoom and a 43mm filter. Now the sensor in this camera, I'm just going to go back to me. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just pan over to... Okay. So the sensor in this camera is a 1/2.5. So it's smaller than the Sony. Obviously, the Sony's got an APS-C sensor, which is quite a bit larger. However, it's bigger than a camcorder sensor, if that makes any sense. So it's still going to have enough sharpness on there. So the sensor in it is from Sony. So it's got a Sony sensor in this camera. So let's just go back down. So in this camera has a Sony sensor. So let's take it out of the box and take a look at it, shall we? Okay, before we take it out though, I'll just tell you there's a little bit of advertising. The packaging is pretty much, the packaging on this camera is pretty much standard. Tells you the horizontal view, tells you what it's gotten for noise reduction. So it has noise reduction. It does not have a microphone, so keep that in mind. So if you're using this, you will need to mic your stuff separately. There is no internal microphone, but I don't need one for my application. So, all right, looks like we're going to have to rip this off. It does not want to come out very easily. Well, at least you know I didn't unbox it before I unboxed it. So what do we got in the package? I'm very excited because there's your instruction manual. And it tells you all the different ways you can hook it up. Tells you about the HDMI cable, or if you want to use the USB mode, you can do that as a webcam. There's some views. There's how to use the remote control. Okay, and you can change the speed at which you zoom as well. And it also has manual focus, and it's got some on-screen menus. This is what the on-screen menus look like. And we're going to get into that as well, because we're going to hook this puppy up. Now, this is a 1080p camera. It is not a 4K camera. However, I've shown you that we can upscale. Upscaling is a thing. You can upscale to a good point too. It does have its own power supply, which we will use. It has a USB cable if you want to hook it up as a webcam, but we're going to be hooking it up through the HDMI. And here is the remote. Remote feels like your standard remote. Nothing fancy. Auto white balance. You can manually do the balance. And these are your three different points of, so if I wanted to have one type of zoom, another type of zoom, and another type of zoom, I can do that. So the camera itself, my God, is all metal construction. It is very well made. Like this thing, it's got a lens cap. Oh my goodness. And there's the lens. Not bad. For $200, what was that price again? $228. And look, it's got different mounts on different sides. There's one, and there's one on the opposite side. Where this comes in handy is when you're doing a downward shot, things can be upside down. So by having two different mounting points, you can have it so when the camera's pointed down, you don't have to change your whole rig to have things right side up. Laser autofocus. That means that it's going to focus very, very quickly. It's made in China. Well, that doesn't mean anything anymore. A lot of good things are made in China. So we're going to take off the Sony ZVE-10 and we're going to hook this up and check it out and see how it works. And I have an HDMI cable, a nice one. I just got a brand new one to test it with. So we're going to pan back to me. Okay, so here I am. And we're going to hook this up. And we're going to see how it is, because I'm going to do this in real time, just like you would. I'm going to unhook my Sony. So I have to be very careful while we're doing this on the fly. And let me just see here. I'm going to switch it off first, because that would be the prudent thing to do. And you know, my Sony is worth $1,000. So if I can put it where the Canon is, hey, now we're cooking, right? And we're going to get rid of the Canon. So I'm going to take the Canon off. I'm going to disconnect the HDMI on the Canon. I'm going to unhook the battery on the Canon. So this is the battery. This is the, I have battery thing. So there's the Canon. See, I already unhooked the Canon. I'm going to set that on the bed. Canon's on the bed. All right. Now we're going to move the Sony over where the Canon is. And I'm just going to, there we go. We're just going to unhook the Sony. And I was making very careful. I had to be very, very careful on how I did the Sony, because I told you about the angle on the, you know, you get things right side up and upside down. So if you look at my Sony, let me just unhook that. I put the connector on the top of the camera instead of the bottom of the camera, and then that way things would be the right side up. Now, we have to switch that around, of course. So this is out of the camera. There we go. Laser detection autofocus. See how fast it zooms in on the hand. Let's test that out. Wow. Okay, so now we know that it has to be mounted this way. Okay. Okay, that tells me how it's got to be mounted. That's the minimum focal distance. This is a little bit on the blurry side, but bam, it focuses very quickly. And as you can see, it doesn't look like I'm going to be compromising quality. I'm hand holding this thing, by the way. Let me just put myself in picture. I am hand holding this camera right now. And there's the Sony. I put the Sony right behind my little duster that keeps my dust off everything. So now I'm going to have the Sony hooked into this, so that I can have where the Canon was is now where the Sony is. And this is going to be my new downward shot. I'm going to have set up for my presets. So it's going to be about this height. It has 10 power zoom, so it's going to be able to zoom in. I'm going to have to reroute my cable. So I've got to do a little bit of cable management, okay? So bear with me. I'm going to stop the video for a little bit. I know that it was doing everything on the fly, but I didn't do too bad considering, you know. So I'm going to stop, we're going to pause, and then I'm going to come back. When I come back, everything should be hooked up and the batteries will be in the remote. Okay, so we're back. And I've got the system all hooked up now. It was a little bit more involved than I originally thought, but as you can see, you can kind of do most of it on the fly. But I ran into an unexpected glitch. I must have plugged the cable in the wrong spot or something, and I had to do a factory reset on the board. But I will tell you that the OC Ghost-Stream board is pretty durable, and I was able to get everything back to normal. But of course, you have to go into the settings again, and it's a complicated board. I'm not going to lie and say it's not complicated. It is. You will have to spend some time with it. So we were talking about, of course, the Mokose camera. The Mokose camera, and I'm going to go to the downward shot and put myself in the corner. Here is the Mokose camera. And as you can see, it's got a Sony sensor. It has a very good picture. I'm going to hit the preset for the zoom. And that is something that the Sony can't do. So the Sony can't do the zoom in presets like that. So if I go like there and I go like there, and of course you've got the manual zoom too, so you can do that as well. It makes an excellent downward shot camera. So what am I going to do with the Sony now that I've done this? Well, let me just queue up the Sony, and I'm going to go to the Sony, take myself off of there. Now we're looking into the Sony ZVE-10. This is with the kit lens, and as you can see behind me now, I've installed an on-air sign, and I've got some more stuff. I'm trying to dress up the back a little bit, you know, so... And I've got some more exciting things coming up that are going to help people that are on a budget. So if you have a Sony ZVE-10, subscribe and watch for those videos, because you're going to find some of them very useful, especially if you've been looking at the price of Sony lenses. So what can we do with this little Sony, right? I tried to repurpose the Canon, but it didn't work out because of that irritating little box that I was telling you about. So we're going to go back to the downward shot, and I'll put myself into the corner, and I'm looking at the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is going through the UVC port on the back of the switcher. So now I'm looking into the Sony ZVE-10, and as you can see, it's got a little bit of a different look on it. A little bit scruffy today. You know, I do work for a living, so, and I work in a warehouse. So the Sony ZVE-10 is kind of expensive for a downward shot, in my opinion. Like it really is. $1,000 camera for a downward shot, and I've seen other YouTubers use $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 cameras for a downward shot, and I said, "Are you crazy?" And that doesn't include the lens that they put on there. And the reason why I was using the Sony ZVE-10 for a downward shot, and if you're looking for a downward shot camera, it is an excellent downward shot camera, because you can get this little tiny remote, and this little remote here, right there, will, let me just get it in the light here. This little remote here will 100%, you know, control your zoom and everything, but it's not that smooth, and you can't set your presets. The Mokose actually does a better job as far as presets, because you're going to set 3 presets, and when you're doing your YouTube videos, you can have your first preset for one distance, another one for another distance, and you don't have to sit there and try to manually adjust it every single time. In my opinion, it's just a little bit more professional. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So do I recommend the Mokose? Absolutely. And I do like the fact that it's got the 2 mounts. It's got several mounts on this thing, so that you don't have to mount it upside down and then try to figure out a way to rotate your screen afterwards, or maybe go into post and have to rotate your screen, because that can be a bit annoying. Better to have it in the right orientation to begin with. The colors on it are fairly accurate. You can always color grade at a later time. It's a win-win. And now I can use this Sony for other things. And again, I was saying before that I've got another solution to the lens issue on this. So, you know, I put that sign behind me now to kind of dress things up, and I've got some more ideas in regards to that. Thank you to my sister for pointing that out. That, they're always talking about blurry background or, milky background or things like that. And let me just switch back over to I'm going to switch back over. Okay, so now we're back to the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. We're not talking into the Sony anymore. So what this does is it gives me a little bit more versatility as far as moving around, and I don't have to worry about, not being tracked. And I also have a different perspective of what's going on behind me. It's a little bit more blurry on the back on that. Plus, this is a 20 millimeter view. I can even put the what do they call it? The filters on this camera too. I can put the black mist filter. I can put the wide angle lens filter. This is not the wide angle lens filter. I can even widen it up more if I want to, instead of having to use the different lenses and things that you would have to get with the Sony. Now let me go back to the Sony, because I'm going to give you a comparison between that and the Sony. So this is the Sony, okay, and this would be the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. So now we can go back and forth, and we're not losing any audio, and everything is fine. And the switcher is great for that. So if you're talking about cutting down on your editing, imagine trying to do that in editing. That would be a bit crazy. So this particular camera, I can do different things with it that I can't do with the Osmo. I can manipulate the audio a little bit better because I've got the 2.4 gigahertz receiver for the DJI Mic 2 that I can use with that one. And I can also do audio follows video, where if I wanted to have a different sound coming from this one as opposed to the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And so having different camera angles works. And getting back to that little box is I've got a little bit of a surprise coming up. So two things are going to be answered with that little box. One, does it work with this camera that I'm looking at right now, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3? And two, what can you do with it? What other things can you do with it? And I think you're going to find that to be rather exciting. And was that worth the $219 extra? And what could I possibly have done with that? So, throwing in a lot of teasers on this one. Sorry to have to do that to you, but hey, I spent a few bucks, so it's going to happen. Anyways, that is it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and we're going to once again go to the downward shot on the Mokose camera. So as you can see, it is a very capable camera, and if you didn't like the focus that you were getting, you can adjust it, and you can also make it blurry, so you can adjust it yourself. And you can also have presets on that focus as well. So it has a live streaming mode too, and a normal mode, and has auto white balance feature on there. And yeah, I can bring things up a little bit closer, and it should focus. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's because I've done the manual focus. Let me see if I can adjust that. Oh, hang on. See? And this is the nice thing about focus, is that you can adjust your focus. So it has a certain focal distance. There we go. Anyways, I won't play with it anymore, but that's the Mokose. You can read everything. I can bring in paper. There's the Ozbot. See how fast it switched over to that? There's the Ozbot. There's the instruction manual of the Ozbot. And we're going to get into the Ozbot future. Okay. All right. Take care. Be safe at work. And I'll see you at the next video. And you're going to see more stuff in the background that will be more pleasing to the eye. And we'll get into that maybe one day too. All right. Bye.